Sometimes it's amazing to me how divergent my opinions are about something in professional wrestling compared to the rest of the IWC. It really is. It seems like the general consensus, at least based off of what I saw on Twitter and on other social media sites, is that most people didn't think this was a good go home show before the Royal Rumble. They did not enjoy this week's Raw. And I dispute that. I actually enjoyed this Raw quite a bit and actually thought it did a really good job of getting me personally excited for the 2014 Royal Rumble coming up this Sunday. I was kind of surprised to see the reaction and see the negative reaction. I thought the show had a hot start, actually a really hot start, had several good things on it all throughout, except maybe for the end of the show. And that I'll grant you. And, the show was still far from perfect, obviously. And there are those things that did bother me as I was watching Raw this week. And you know me, I'm going to have no problem talking about them and telling you why they bothered me so much. But all in all, I actually did enjoy this week's Raw quite a bit. So I was a bit surprised to see that the rest of the people, it seemed like, did not. As I mentioned, I really liked Raw this week, and one of the reasons I really liked Raw is I thought it had a really hot start for my purposes for the first 45 minutes or so of the show. There's no question about it. And I like how the WWE didn't drag it out like maybe they would have in the past and all of this. Everybody knew that Batista was coming back this week on Raw. It was known. So why sit there and fight it? Why sit there and hide it? Why sit there and try and punt it down the road? Why not sit there and set up the whole thing for him to come out right at the beginning of the show? I thought this was really good. I am curious, though, with Stephanie and Triple H. I thought you were supposed to be aligned with Randall Keith Orton. I thought you guys were supposed to be in cahoots. I thought he was supposed to be the face of the WWE. So much the face of the WWE as your WWE World Heavyweight Champion that he didn't even make an appearance at the unveiling of the WWE Network at CES in Las Vegas this month. I'm just saying, if you're going to call the guy the face of the company on your television show, maybe he should make an appearance as your world champion at the big unveiling of the WWE Network. It's just a thought. But, here you've got some confusion going on to me just because I'm trying to figure out, are Triple H and Stephanie supposed to be face? Or are they supposed to be heel? Or are they trying to out-heel Randy Orton? Or what the fuck is going on? Are we just trying to put them over and screw everybody else? That's what I really didn't get. It all to me was one big dick tease because I knew they were going to come out with Batista right away to kick off the show, and that's exactly what they did. Kind of looks like Pitbull beefed up and in his 40s. It's kind of awesome. Batista had kind of that Humpty Dumpty head look to him. It's fantastic. I don't care. It's good to see Batista back. It's been almost 4 years. He was away for a long period of time. Now it feels fresh to see him back. I don't know how fresh those skinny jeans were that he was wearing last night on Raw, but nonetheless, it was very good to see him back, and he made his intentions very well known. I was hoping they were going to go Richard Sherman with this promo, but they didn't quite do that. He said he's back to win the Royal Rumble, back to headline and main event WrestleMania, and back to win the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. The type of stuff you would expect somebody like a Batista to come back and say after being gone for almost 4 years. I thought, to me, it started off the show right. It was really building towards the Royal Rumble pay-per-view this Sunday. I mean, you're building towards the main event, or it probably will be the main event between Cena and Orton for the title. And then you've got Batista coming back. So these are two things right here that directly tied into the Royal Rumble. A really good, hot start for this show. I was a little surprised Batista didn't get a slightly better reaction, but maybe that's just one of those things that happens sometimes. But I know the people deep down inside are very happy to see Dave Batista back, and so am I. And CM Punk and all the fellas in the back with divas for girlfriends, you better watch out because Batista's on the prowl, bitches. They followed up that appropriate length of about 20 minutes Breakfast Club promo segment to kick off the show with the unveiling of Batista officially being back in the WWE with a really good six-man tag, the highlight of the night in terms of matches. The Rhodes Brothers and what Biggie Langston versus The Shield. Shit was really good. Really damn good. As I'm watching the match, though, and I'm looking and seeing several potential future big-time players for the WWE involved in this match, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better about the future of the WWE in general. But as I'm sitting there looking at it, I said two things. Number one, Big E Langston, that big splash that he did, is so much better of a finishing maneuver for him compared to the big ending, in my opinion, that should be his finish. To me, it's a more impressive finisher visually, and it looks like it would actually cause more damage than his current finisher, where it looks like the guy's landing on him, and as a result, Big E Langston, if anything, would take all the brunt of the move, which would seem to defeat the whole purpose of it being a finishing maneuver for Big E Langston. Now, as far as Roman Reigns, as I'm sitting there and watching him, I tweeted this last night. Twitter handles at Off the Rope Show. Make sure if you don't follow that you go follow, because I'll keep tweeting every week live during Raw. It was amazing to me as I'm watching it. You see Roman Reigns hit the Superman punch, and then he hits the spear. I'm like, wait a second. Why can't the Superman punch be his finisher? To me, that's a more unique maneuver than the spear. To me, that helps him stand out even more than the spear. I'm not saying the spear can't be in his arsenal, because he pulls off the spear very, very well. However, when we talk about uniqueness, and that's something I'm very big on, is people being unique. To me, there would not be a more unique finisher in the WWE than that Superman punch. WMD doesn't compare to that. But, when you talk about the spear, you had Edge for years do the spear. You had Christian start to do the spear. You had Big Show do the spear, and it's not even a finishing maneuver. To me, it seems silly. You had a Diva for a while using a spear as a finisher. Why would Roman Reigns want to use the spear as a finisher if other people are using that maneuver, and in one case is using that maneuver and it's not even a finishing maneuver? What a maneuver. That Superman punch, as Vince would say, Gorilla Monsoon would say, what a maneuver. That's my question to you. One of the questions of the night. Should Roman Reigns use as his official finisher the Superman punch or the spear?
Oh my God, Roman Reigns, what a stud. Batista's back. Mommy can have him. I want Roman Reigns' Samoan ass. She can fuck right off. I'm his bitch, yeah. I just see him in the ring with the spear and the Superman punch. Oh, I can't take it. I gotta take out my aggression on this fucking flip-flop. Oh, makes a bitch wanna go into heat. Pull my tail. Grab my ears, Roman. I'll stroke your hair and rub all your muscles. Oh my God. You need to win the 2014 Royal Rumble. Hell yeah, bitches.
I'm very happy to see Daniel Bryan being the most over individual in the WWE. It really does warm my heart. Now this week, this I felt played into the good first 45 minutes of this show in particular, a very strong opening hour for Raw. Daniel Bryan comes out and explains himself. Now, with all I say about how good it is to see Daniel Bryan get over, I thought his explanation was a little bit lame-ass. You got somebody with a messiah complex, you got to deal with them mentally, not physically, even though you ultimately came to blows with them inside of a steel cage. Whatever. 2 weeks is not enough time to really be playing mental games, in my opinion anyways, in my opinion. But the whole thing that really surprised me was that when he sat there and said that with Rowan and Harper both being in the Royal Rumble, that means that they won't interfere in his match with Bray Wyatt at the Royal Rumble. Since when is there a rule that people involved in the Royal Rumble couldn't interfere in other matches? Again, it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. If this promo was scripted out, it was scripted out very poorly, in my opinion. Now, the other thing that it brought up was a lot of the internet was like, wait, does this mean that Daniel Bryan's not going to be in the Royal Rumble match? I don't think they said anything about him not being in the Royal Rumble match. They didn't say anything about him being in the Royal Rumble match. It would actually be kind of cool with us finding out that CM Punk is the #1 entrant in the Royal Rumble to have Daniel Bryan be the #2 entrant. If we're going to stick to the whole thing of the Authority wanting to fuck over people and screw with people, well, they're doing it with CM Punk. Wouldn't it make sense to have Daniel Bryan go #2? And what good television that would make for at the pay-per-view on Sunday if you had CM Punk and Daniel Bryan come in 1 and 2. You'd get off to a really hot start. A lot of the fans would love it. And you could have those guys go all the way to the Final Four, and people would buy it, believe it, and think it would be totally awesome. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. If Daniel Bryan ends up not being in the Royal Rumble match, then all of you should feel free to go ahead and crap on the WWE for that. So because of his actions on SmackDown, Stephanie McMahon told Kane he had no choice but to apologize to CM Punk for chokeslamming him last week. So you get the whole apology segment between the two. Hey, this is a thing again. You're throwing different people aligned in associated with Triple H at CM Punk to ultimately set up Triple H versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. You would assume and hope at this point in time. Maybe not hope, but if you don't hope, too bad. That's probably what you'll have to hope for because that's what you're going to get. But CM Punk taking on Badass Billy Gunn is kind of funny. Seeing Road Dogg and Badass Billy Gunn just makes me hope that they actually do get the tag straps. I can't believe that match between them and the Rhodes brothers is a pre-show match at the Royal Rumble. How stupid and how ridiculous. You're going to waste what could be a very good tag match for the titles on your pre-show. Ridiculous. But I do like how Kane came out at the end and said that CM Punk is going to have to enter in #1 at the Royal Rumble. I'm fine with that. You know, that's something that could tie in again to CM Punk going against the Authority and CM Punk having to try and overcome the odds and the deck stacked against him. Sets the table very nicely for a future match between him and Triple H at WrestleMania. If they are building towards him and Kane, then fuck that. Coming up Thursday on this channel will be another edition of the Thursday 300 where I'm going to talk about the WWE's use of Dr. Martin Luther King and his image and his voice and his message on Martin Luther King Day on Raw. So you'll want to tune into that because I will go off on this. This is ridiculous. This is idiocy at its highest level. And I'm going to talk more about it on Thursday because it really has indeed chat my ass. So I could see where a lot of the internet was going to be very bored by ADR versus Rey Mysterio again. We've seen this a lot over the past several years, and you know, people throughout the match were crapping on it, and I completely get it and I completely understand it, and they should. I mean, how many times do you need to see something? JR even sat there, and this just shows sometimes that JR is still a dyed-in-the-wool company man, even when he's not working for the company, at least you would think. By saying, you know, now the third time around, ADR and Ray actually tells the story. What a bunch of bullshit. Really? Come on, man. Now, the ironic thing is this actually turned into what I felt was a really good match. That was definitely the best match of the three, even though most of the audience didn't seem to really care about it. But the one thing I did appreciate was the fact that they had ADR for several weeks talking shit about Batista and had him calling out Batista and saying what he was going to do Batista at the Royal Rumble. So after he beats Rey Mysterio, Dave Batista comes out. I don't know if they were really acknowledging that him and Rey were friends necessarily, but he comes out and he lays out ADR. And he hits that power bomb that wasn't a Batista bomb because of those skinny jeans. It probably was a good choice to not go there. But I like this. You had Batista premiere at the beginning of the show, and you found a way to bring him in halfway through the show. I thought this was actually well done by the WWE and made it okay for me to have to sit through ADR versus Rey Mysterio again. There are those that will argue that the WWE is doing a really good job of storytelling, to which I would counter with, haha, bullshit. Look at Big Show. Just a couple of months ago, wasn't this guy broke? Wasn't he feuding with the Authority? Wasn't he doing their bidding? Wasn't he crying because he had to hit somebody like the Malcolm Dwayne Duff DeWoth? But now all of a sudden, he's not crying anymore. He's mad as hell, and he's not going to take it anymore. And great impression of Paul Heyman aside, the bottom line is I don't want to see Big Show versus Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. Give me Brock Lesnar and Mark Henry at the Royal Rumble any fucking day of the week. I don't want to see Big Show fighting Brock. And now all of a sudden you've got Brock acting like he's scared of a guy that a couple of months ago was crying and begging for his fucking job like a little pussy bitch. Now, if Brock Lesnar got wind of the fact that the Big Show was indeed wearing a diaper under his singlet and he was going to introduce him to his new finisher, the diaper rash, then I completely get it and understand it. Everybody should be chicken shit afraid of that. But other than that, I'll pass on this feud. I'll pass on this story because to me there really is no story. How does a guy go from crying and begging for his job and acting like a bitch to a little over 2 months later? Now again, we remember he's 7 feet, 400 plus pounds. He's an intimidating son of a bitch, and he could take on somebody legitimately like Brock Lesnar. Get the fuck out of here. So the Usos were featured in another big spot here, taking on Rowan and Harper of the Wyatt family. It was kind of a theme throughout the night, wasn't it, that a lot of people didn't get their entrances played? You would think in 3 hours' time as opposed to 2, you would have more time to do things, not less. Sometimes the time management, of the WWE is completely atrocious when it comes to how they produce their shows. We didn't even get the full Wyatt family entrance. That's perhaps the best single thing they have going for them, and we didn't even get the full entrance? How ridiculous. It really was. Now, this match here wasn't ridiculous. I love the fact that the Usos are getting a big push. I hope they continue to follow up on it, and I hope this will lead to them winning the titles, the tag titles, at WrestleMania 30. The time is right, the setting is right, the push is right. That's how you follow up with it. You build a tag team division around these guys, and surprisingly, the WWE has slowly amassed a really good tag team division. It's a shame they can't write for the division in terms of storylines, feuds, and rivalries, but the talent is there. They have a lot of good tag teams on the show right now. They have a lot of good tag teams in the company, to the point where they don't even use teams like Los Matadores, and the Real Americans didn't even appear this week. They've got a deep and good tag team division, and it warms the cockles of my heart a little bit here. But, it did lead to some good visuals at the end where Bray Wyatt is out there and Daniel Bryan eventually comes in to the rescue and helps save the Usos, and you get the big yes chant going. It will be really cool come WrestleMania when you get 70+ thousand people going like this. Yes, yes, yes. That will be indeed a WrestleMania moment that is more important than any match or any opponent that Daniel Bryan could have this upcoming April. People were actually starting to wonder whether we were actually going to have Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston in the main event of this show. They could have done a little bit better job of building to this and promoting this throughout the night. Another thing that pisses me off about this is when you have the commentators talking about how this is the biggest upset, or one of the biggest upsets they've seen in a long time. It's a huge upset. What a monumental upset that Kofi Kingston could actually beat Randy Orton. Yeah, because he's never, ever beaten him before. It does no good to have Randy Orton go over Kofi Kingston last week 100% clean if you're going to sit there and continue to diminish it. What good does that do? That's not helping a guy get over. Maybe instead of doing that type of typical WWE don't put the black man over shit, you could have sat there and talked about Kofi Kingston has beaten Randy Keith Orton before. Maybe he knows something that others don't. Maybe something that even John Cena can't do. Beat Randy Orton. Maybe that means that Kofi deserves a future title shot. Maybe that means that Kofi has Randall Keith Orton's number. Maybe he's inside of his head. Maybe you build toward a future feud between these two in 2014. You don't sit there and fucking diminish them all because, we got to wait for John Cena. I thought John Cena said before that he was the first to get there and the last to leave. We totally throw that out to try and make crappy television because almost 3 hours later we're still focusing on this freaking rampant entrance, and eventually during this main event match here comes John Cena with that dick up his ass run looking unathletic as fuck to come out and go after Randy Orton. This is why people didn't want to see these two feud. This is why I was pushing for it, because I wanted to see this shit happen, because it's terrible. Completely terrible. Nobody gives a fuck. Such a lame-ass ending. You have Kofi versus Randy. Why, if you're going to have Cena interfere and you show him back there, why couldn't Kofi just get the pinfall victory right there and roll out and get the fuck out of Dodge and then have Cena go after Orton? I love Orton's stiff arm of the fan in the crowd. I love Cena pushing the fan in the crowd. That was pretty cool. But after all of this, you have Randy Orton get into a vehicle, and JBL says he must have carjacked it. What, did he use his raging ring boner as a fucking weapon, you douchebag? He got in the car because somebody was waiting for him, you stupid idiot. What's he got, 2 stars on him, Grand Theft Auto style now? I wonder, was it Chase Oliver 68 or Justin from the Trio Woe show that was his getaway driver? Because I don't know about you, but anybody else, if you see a guy and you're in a vehicle right there, you could see this guy coming if you're paying any attention at all. He's got sleeve tattoos, a construction worker beard, baby oil gleaming, looking all hot, mad, and crazy. He's got a freaking raging ring boner, and you're just going to sit there and let him come up to your car? How ridiculous. And just like the finish to this show was ridiculous. And this is why people didn't want to see Cena versus Orton, because any feud featuring them lacks originality, lacks creativity, and ultimately just becomes ridiculous. Because even after that, this guy hit my dad repeatedly last week. So after I try to get my hands on him, but really don't fully get at him the way I want to, I come back through the crowd and I'm going to sit there and slap hands with everybody, and that's okay. And I get what people are going to say about the whole thing of, well, he made this kid's day, and that's what they do. No, it's stupid because it eliminates the consequences of any actions. John Cena does enough great charity work and enough stuff with the kids where you need to sell the fact that he's pissed off. You need to sell the fact that this other motherfucker went after his dad. I don't care who it is. If I haven't got my hands on somebody that fucked with my family, I'm sure as hell not going to be slapping high fives and hands with everybody that I walk into and run across. That's ridiculous. So a lame finish to what I thought was a pretty good Raw that did a generally good job of getting me really amped up and excited for the Royal Rumble this upcoming Sunday, even though sadly I couldn't give a fuck less about what might very well be their main event, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship between John Cena and Randall Keith Orton.